Thank you for joining us on the Kilimanjaro Safari. We hope you enjoy this attraction at Disney's Animal Kingdom and learn some really fun animal facts with us along the way.
Country bird, ground hornbill, helmeted guinea fowl, crowned crane, ostrich.
Thank you. Welcome to Kilimanjaro Safaris. My name is Kirsten. I'll be your safari guide for today's journey through the Giraffes Wildlife Reserve. While we are moving, please make sure you're keeping all hands, arms, feet, and legs inside the truck at all times, and please make sure you're staying fully and completely seated throughout our whole journey. So please, no standing. If you do plan on taking any photos or videos, go ahead and get those cameras and phones ready to go. We're not able to stop for every single animal, and those animals certainly don't stop for us. So just make sure you have those cameras ready. While we are waiting, if you look above your heads, there is an animal spotting guide up there. Lets you know what some of those animals are we might see while we're out there today. Sometimes there are different migration patterns or sleeping patterns, so we might not see them all, but hopefully we'll get pretty lucky while we're out there. So let's head into the reserve now. So the first place we're going to visit is known as the Little Ituri Forest. The animals here tend to be pretty shy and they do like to hide, but it looks like we're going to start out really lucky. Just at the beginning, these orangey, rusty colored animals are bongos. The bongos do get the nickname the ghosts of the forest because they are very quiet and very good at hiding. Once we get up a little bit closer to them, you might see how their horns do slightly curve back towards their heads. That's so they don't get stuck in the trees and bushes instead of their horns standing straight up. Makes it a lot easier for them to move throughout the forest without getting stuck. And out to the right hand side there is an okapi. Okapis kind of look like they're wearing zebra pants on their back legs, but they are not related to zebras. They're one of the only known relatives to giraffes. They do have a prehensile tongue like giraffes do, so they're able to grasp at things with their tongue. Those more tannish animals we're passing by, they look like big deer. Those are greater kudu. The greater kudu get to about 55 inches tall at their shoulders alone. Those are females, the males would have horns. You can see a similarity to them with the bongos. They do have those white lines going down their sides. It helps out with their camouflage. There's another one right up on top of the hill. It mimics the sunlight coming through the trees and bushes, like the sun rays. Looks like we are going to see a black rhino up ahead too. It's on the hill over on the left hand side, once we get a little bit further around this curve. You can just kind of see its back. It looks like a rock, but that is rhino. You can see it wiggling its ears here and there. Black rhinos tend to be a little more solitary than other rhinos, so you'll usually see them by themselves. Looks like it's choosing to lay down now. So rhinos do unfortunately have a lot of poaching issues. They are poached for their horns because some people think their horns have medicinal property to them. No proof what they do. They're actually made out of keratin, which is what your hair and fingernails are made out of. So that poaching seems pretty pointless once you think about it being something as simple as hair and fingernails. Because of that poaching, rhinos don't have any known predators other than humans. We will be leaving the Little Ituri Forest now, but that does mean we're going to start heading towards the Sophie River. And at the Sophie River, you might be able to guess from the name, but we're going to start looking out for some of those water-dwelling animals. There is a hippo back in there. You can look through the break in the trees. It's a little bit out of the water. They don't usually come out of the water unless they're on the search for food or if they want to sunbathe. See if we can find any others a little bit further up. Hippos are able to hold their breath for about 6 to 8 minutes at a time, and they close off their nostrils and their ears to help them with holding their breath. Looks like there's one in the water just up to the right. Now, also with hippos, they don't typically swim on the top of water. What they'll do instead is they just bounce along the ground underwater. So a few others can move to the left-hand side. Also on the left, those birds on the island are pink-backed pelicans. They don't look too pink when you first see them, but they do turn pink during mating season. And it's not their feathers, it's their skin that turns a pink color. It's almost like they're blushing. Really great view of this one kind of just bobbing up and down, this hippo here, where they don't swim. They have a really neat mechanism in their brains as well. They can sleep in the water, underneath the water. That mechanism in their brain helps bob their bodies up and down to continue to get air without them even having to wake up to do so. We will be crossing this bridge up here. Just make sure everybody's still staying fully seated. Big reason why. On the left, those are Nile crocodiles. You can tell those are crocodiles, not alligators, because even with their mouths shut, they have a very toothy grin with the fork tooth sticking all the way out. They can weigh as much as about 500 pounds, and they can eat half their body weight with just one meal. So that 500-pound crocodile can eat about 250 pounds worth of food at one time. But once they have that large meal, they can go a couple months without eating again. Also, even though the crocodiles are pretty dangerous animals, they can also be very gentle. When it's time for their little ones to hatch, they will roll their eggs around in their mouth to help soften up the eggshells. It makes it easier for those little ones to hatch. Right-hand side, there's a very large tree. Kind of looks like it's upside down. It does get the nickname the upside down tree for how it looks. But it's actually called a baobab. Baobabs have a sponge-like texture on the inside, and it makes it super useful for animals because it holds a large amount of water. And during drought seasons, animals can pierce the bark with their tusks or horns, and it helps give them water whenever there's none in their home at the times. So because of that, it can also be called the tree of life. From up here, we're overlooking the Savannah, which can also be called the Serengeti grasslands. This is one of the best views out in the reserve, especially with some of the zebras out there. We're going to try to get a little bit closer to all those animals. So, it does look like there will be one just up to your right-hand side once we get to the bottom of the hill. There's a tiny, tiny little antelope. They look like s'mores. Those are springbuck. They're the smallest of the antelope species, only about 3 feet tall, full grown. But they can still jump 6 to 8 feet high. The more grayish animals out there are white-bearded wildebeest. They do like all the rainy weather lately. They actually migrate according to the rainstorms, following them up to about 1,000 miles per year. There's another zebra closest to us, but we'll see a few more in just a minute. Those cattle with the huge horns are Ankoli cattle. Those horns help regulate their body temperatures. So there's a honeycomb-like structure on the inside of those horns. It makes it easier for blood to flow through. As blood flows through the horns, it takes the heat from their bodies and pushes it out through the tips of the horns so they don't get overheated. On the left-hand side, throughout the area, there's one inside the cave also. Those are African wild dogs. They can also be called African painted dogs because of the unique markings in their fur. Looks like they kind of spread out throughout the area. But they do have pretty large packs usually. They do like to hunt in their packs, and they have a higher success rate at hunting than big cats like lions or cheetahs do. They use that pack to pursue their prey until the prey is just too tired to continue. Still to the left, those are sable antelope. Might notice how their horns point backwards so that they have protection for themselves so predators won't attack them from behind. They are the emblem of the Harambe Wildlife Reserve that we're in right now. As we try to get closer up to some of those other zebras, we're going to pass by a few termite mounds. Really big one on the left-hand side. The termite mounds are made out of saliva, dirt, and dung. So probably not very appealing to us, but they're very useful for other animals like giraffes, rhinos, and elephants. They basically use them as big back scratchers. They can get as hard as concrete, so they make really great scratching posts for them. And we made it up to those zebras, and there looks like there's a couple little ones out there. One closest to us even. So these are mountain zebras. The way you know that immediately is that they don't have their stripes going across their bellies. They also have a skin flap that hangs from their neck that's called a dewlap. Those dewlaps help regulate their body temperature so they don't get too hot or too cold. And out of all the zebras, only mountain zebras have a dewlap. But other animals can. Other than the horns that the Ankoli cattle have, they have a dewlap as well. A group of zebras like this is called a dazzle, so you are looking at a dazzle of zebras. You can kind of see the wildebeest on the right-hand side again. A little bit better view of them.
Attention all drivers, attention all drivers. The advice that you are left-lane is starting, so please make sure you not miss.
So you get a better view of the other zebras just out to the left here. Really great up close here. giraffe up here in this island of trees. They're pretty social animals, so hopefully we'll see just a few more up ahead. This is a Maasai giraffe. They have very messy like spots in their pattern, whereas reticulated giraffes have clean crisp lines around their spots. So pretty easy to remember if you think of it as messy from Maasai. There's also a Patterson eland just to our left up here. There's a male Patterson eland that we'll see up ahead. The males and females both have horns. Best way to know the difference between them is because of their sizing. The males are significantly larger, even getting up to about 6 feet tall at their shoulders alone. A few other giraffes now to the left. Whole group of them. It's called a tower. Even though some of them are laying down, it does not mean they're sleeping. Giraffes only get about 30 minutes of sleep a day. And if they take power naps throughout the day, that equals that 30 minutes, so it's not even all at once. Other than that, they spend about 20 hours a day eating. You might see how this male over here looks like he has a flower crown going on. They do that to show their dominance, so he's the dominant male. Left-hand side, maybe a little bit trickier to see. They're through the bushes up here. There's a few mandrills throughout the area. See if we can get a better view anywhere through here. Everybody does know what a mandrill looks like, though, if you've seen Rafiki, because they are the same type of same type of monkey as Rafiki. Not seeing any more coming out of the area. Let's see if we can find any other animals up ahead up here. There's an elephant back in the right-hand side. Let's see if we can see that one better right up here. Keep looking out to the right, coming towards the back right. Just starting to move through the area back in there. Now you might see how it's flapping its ears. So elephants do flap their ears if they get a little too hot. And it makes them basically like them fanning themselves. So that creates an air circulation around their body. Elephants are also animals that do have a matriarch system. So the herds are led by the females. And then they're mostly just the females and the babies. So that one head matriarch that they have is the memory of the herd. She will remember all the good places for them to be, whether that be for safe food, safe water, or just a safe place. For the males, on the other hand, once they get a little bit older, they'll break off from that herd, and then they become pretty solitary most of their lives. So you'll typically see them by themselves. Though very, very occasionally, you'll see the males grouping together, making their own smaller herds. And it's just simply called a bachelor herd. We're passing through some red clay pits right now. While we are, see if you can find any tusk marks in the clay from the elephants. Well, they like to scrape at clay and then they eat it. The reason why is because they get some extra vitamins and nutrients for their bodies. Very similar to children eating vitamin gummies. Looks like there's some scrapes up the side on the right here. I can see a few other elephants in the distance on the left. Let's see if we can get a little bit closer view of them again too. Elephants are very conscious about taking care of their bodies, as you can tell with them getting extra vitamins for themselves. But something else that they do is they take care of their skin. So elephants do have extremely sensitive skin, and they are able to get sunburned just like we do. So they cover themselves in dirt and mud. That's why you usually see mud or dirt on their backs. The reason why is because they utilize it as basically as a sunscreen. See, they're still out to the left, just up ahead up here. Looks like there's some by the water. Let's get a little bit further up again. Oh yeah, looks like they're starting to like the water. They really like it having water in themselves. It helps soothe their skin. I'm trying to catch up here before they move on. So that's a great view of them coming out. A full-grown elephant can fit about 5 gallons of water in their trunks too. They also found some flamingos. These are greater flamingos, which means they're the largest of the flamingo species, but they're the lightest pink. And if you look towards the ground, those tiny little balls of gray fluff, those are baby flamingos. Really great way for you to see how they do not hatch pink. They do hatch as that grayish white color. But flamingos do gain their pink color as a brine shrimp that gives them a beta keratin. And the beta keratin is what's going to cause them to gain that pink color gradually. A group of flamingos flamingos like this is called a flamboyance. So you are looking at a flamboyance of flamingos.
Have
sensitive skin also, and they can get sunburned like the elephants, so that's why we see them putting mud all over themselves. They also utilize mud as a bug repellent, so it helps keep the bugs off of them. But again, these are white rhinos this time. They don't get their name from their color. They actually have a pretty dark gray color underneath all that mud, just like the black rhino. But then they gain their name from their wide mouths, from the word white, which is Afrikaans for wide, not white. But white sounded like white, and that's how their name stuck around as the white rhinos. Let's see if we can get a better view of the ones in the mud over here. Really enjoying that cool mud right now. They do have very poor eyesight. They can only see a few feet in front of them, which very fittingly gives them their grouping name that is called a crash. So this is a crash of rhinos. You can also take a look at their ears. They look like they have funneled ears. So those funneled ears help them capture a lot of sound. They do have better hearing because of that poor eyesight. It copes for that poor eyesight. There are a couple cheetahs up here, just a little bit further up. They're laying down in the shade. They found a nice cool spot also. See if I can give you guys a good view of them. They are diurnal cats, so they're not really proving that right now. What diurnal means is they're more active throughout the day. Looks like they're a little lazy right now. Probably something you already know, but cheetahs are very fast animals. They can go up to about 75 miles per hour. Really cool thing about them is they are able to change their direction in mid-air or mid-sprint. They have a very flat tail that they utilize like a rudder. So while they are running at very high speeds or while they're in mid-air, all it takes for them to change their direction is to move their tail to the side they need. We're going around a few copy rocks just out to our left up here. Copy rocks are utilized by a lot of different animals. They're really good outlet posts for animals to see their surroundings. So we're going to keep going around them and see what else we can find up ahead. You see a couple bontaboks out to the right, but we're going to see them again here in just a moment. So that is a warthog to the left. They do have warts like their name tells you. They're just big padded spots on their faces. They also have two pairs of tusks that they create burrows with. You can see all the burrows throughout that area. So they create those burrows and then they back up into the burrows so that their tusks point outwards to have another form of protection for themselves other than the warts. A few ostriches on the left-hand side. Ostriches have a 9-foot wingspan. That's just a foot less than the canopy above your heads right now. But sadly, they're a little too heavy to fly. So instead, they can run up to about 35 miles per hour. There's the bontaboks on the right-hand side again. I think they're pretty funny animals. They're very unathletic animals. They cannot run or jump very well at all. And some ostrich eggs on the ground. So those eggs might not seem too large from a distance, but a single one of them can equal to about 2 dozen chicken eggs. All 3 of those ostriches are females. If you were to see a male, they would have a very rich, dark black color to their feathers. We will be leaving the Savannah up here, but that does mean we're heading into a Magadi Glen. In the Magadi Glen, it's another woodland area. The animals tend to be pretty shy, more so than the ones that we saw at the beginning in the Ituri forest. Right through the trees. It's a large white animal. You can see it swishing its tail a little bit back in there. That is a scimitar horned oryx. It's one of my personal favorite animals. I think they're really cool. And I love it when people get to see this animal. Not just because I like them, but it's good for us to see. The scimitar horned oryx has unfortunately gone extinct in the wild. So you can only find them on reserves like this due to poaching. But like I said, they do have some pretty cool characteristics about their bodies. They can withstand extremely hot temperatures, even going up to about 115 degrees Fahrenheit before they even start to break a sweat. And they can go 9 months without having a single drop of water to drink because they eat a lot of vegetation that holds a lot of moisture, and then they don't have to go seek out water. As we do leave the Magadi Glen, though, that does unfortunately mean we're coming up to the end of our safari up here. But if you'd like to go home and continue to help out these animals, one that you could use a lot of help are the elephants. So while you're out purchasing any items like chips, cakes, cookies, or even chapstick for household cleaners, look at the ingredients to see if they're using palm oil. Palm oil is harvested in the homes and habitats of the elephants, so they're losing their homes for that to be used in those items. The companies can use alternative oils, but they're choosing not to, like sunflower seed oil. So try to look out for alternative brands and try to start using those alternative brands, choosing to use alternative oils. You can start helping save the homes for the elephants. If there are any wilderness explorers aboard this truck, you're on the Simba 1, so make sure you go get that safari patch for today. And if you're not done exploring, you want to keep looking for more animals, just at the exit of safaris, there is a walking trail called Gorilla Falls. A lot of really cool animals to see through there, like gorillas, meerkat, and monkeys. Also, if you're going to head over to Asia, they have their own walking trail called the Maharaja Jungle Trek, with animals more native to Asia, like Komodo dragons and tigers. Before you guys do leave, we don't like to say goodbye here in Harambe. It's a little bit too sad and too final. So instead, we like to say Kwaherini, which means to go well. So Kwaherini to you, my friends. You guys go well. And have a good rest of your day exploring here at Disney's Animal Kingdom.